A loss against New York today would not be great news for the San Francisco Shock's playoff hopes. So you best believe they came in focused and gunning for a victory. The Excelsior were playing no games, going for a perfect stage record, but the Shock weren't competition to sneeze at either and pretty much traded blows with New York the entire game. This was such a sick showcase of Overwatch in its most competitive form.
It really was, and it was so close. If you were looking at the stats at the very end of the series, like, they really matched up well, and that's something I did not expect. I did not expect New York to actually be baited like that. I didn't expect them to be forced into a faster-paced kind of play style, into more aggression. We saw Mano going out there, which he usually wouldn't. Like, they actually abandoned their backline in some scenarios, which is something we've barely, if at all, seen from New York. So the fact that San Francisco Shock managed to take them and like get them out of their shells was super impressive.
Yeah, I will say I'm actually impressed as well with Shock. You know, I said it before, you look at the 4-0 scoreline, you think, oh, it was a one-sided affair. It wasn't. It was actually very close between these two teams. I was wondering what improvements they were going to be making, and from what we saw of Shock, I liked everything that I was seeing. I was liking the fact that Super and Sinatra were playing a lot more reserved than they usually were. Right. So playing kind of into the kind of NYXR tempo. New York Excelsior, very good team at disengaging. Like, disengage is their bread and butter, and they weren't really falling into the repeated traps that I thought that they would as a team.
I feel like New York really passed the test, though, because even though Shock pushed them to the limit, forced them to hard engage fights, which is not what New York does. They struggled on Nimbani, they struggled to the earlier parts of Volskaya, but by the end of the series, they were winning those fights, and it was, in my opinion, all Nene and Meko making it happen. Really great plays. Jonak's usually the star of this roster because he's the one chipping away. They used to see the speed boost come through. You see New York clean everybody up. Shock didn't allow them to do that, and yet still New York was able to stay composed, and that makes them such a terrifying opponent. They could play both sides of the coin here, offense and defense. Such a scary team right now.
I think they might be the scariest team right now to play against, just in general, because like you said, it's every point that you've just hit on the head there. This team is just unreal. Like, even when they're being pushed and pressured, this is the first time we've seen them really sweating, they still come out on top. Like, that is just absurd. This is a squad that is really just not slacking in the slightest.